We're going to name the beasts in the East of both the AFC and the NFC in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yeah, somebody knows what they're talking about because this is Locked On NFL, and it is your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen. Shout out to the everydayers that join us here on Locked On NFL each and every day. And hello to the newcomers. We're going to give you a reason to stick around on the podcast where we go around the league, take the local experts, their clips, what they're saying about the team across the Locked On Podcast Network, and we deliver that to you. And then we cut up if we have to. We talk about them and all of their optimism and all of their downfalls and all of their headaches and anxiety. We bring all of that out here on Locked On NFL, and we're glad to be able to do it. Now, what enables us to do this are sponsors like today's sponsor. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I am a credentialed member of the media for 2 decades, and our expert today comes from Baltimore. That's right, my man, Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens, as well as other shows around the Locked On Podcast Network. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to end up talking about the teams that we didn't mention as contenders, but we're wide open for a surprise in both the NFC and the AFC East. We're going to talk about the AFC East in segment 2 right in the middle of the show, but we're going to start at the very top because drama always seems to find the NFC East, Kevin Ostreicher. It's the Eagles until it's not. Do you agree?
I think you have to. I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champions, and I think that, you know, while a team like the Commanders had a really promising run in the championship game last season, while Dallas is Dallas, I guess, and I'm not really counting. I'm not counting on the Giants to do anything. I mean, to me, I feel like it has to be Philadelphia. You know, look, that's not to say another team can't surprise you. That's what the NFL is, right? Teams surprising you on a weekly basis, and a team you think, oh, they're not going to do anything. Like, look at the Broncos last season out in the AFC West. Bo Nix, people weren't in on Bo Nix. Then the Broncos go, they have one of the best defenses in the league last year, and Bo Nix turns out to be pretty good. So that can happen. But, you know, you're talking about a team in Philadelphia that did have turnover, but they were able to replace some of those guys. And obviously your core is still there with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown. I could go on and on with that list. So Philadelphia is the team for me, for sure.
It is the team. The biggest thing that they're going to have to do is they took 2 really, really good rookies, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell last year, but they had Darius Slay and C.J. Gardner-Johnson there to do the leadership. Both of those guys are gone now. Those young guys have to be leaders, and they have to replace those talented followers with other people who are talented followers. But make no mistake about it, Quinyon Mitchell is ready for the task, and Lou DiBiase from Locked On Eagles is going to tell you about it.
So I said on the podcast yesterday, I think Quinyon Mitchell is the most important player in this Eagles-Cowboys matchup because the only way the Dallas Cowboys win this football game, in my opinion, is if Dak Prescott in the passing game win a shootout. If they put up 30-plus points, that's how Dallas is going to have to win, I feel like, personally, like every single game in 2025. So Quinyon Mitchell, if he can limit CeeDee Lamb, if they can have him shadow Lamb all game and limit him, they're going to win this football game. And I am a little bit concerned about that George Pickens against Adoree Jackson matchup. I know Fangio normally plays zone coverage, 90% of the time, but these are the type of matchups that you do have Q shadowing a top-tier receiver. Fangio said this summer they were thinking about doing it more. Mitchell has been playing this summer on the left and right side of the boundary. Quinyon Mitchell, the key to this win on Thursday night.
Well, there you go. Quinyon Mitchell, my man in the draft that I wanted the Jaguars to take if they did not take Brian Thomas Jr. So I would have been right either way. I think he's a very, very good player. But there is something to be said about him having to step up as a leader now, as well as the most talented player of the team.
Right, and I think that's what you see with these younger players. And, honestly, over the course, and not that this hasn't been a thing for like the entire NFL's existence, but it seems like more and more, especially I guess just with the media and being able to get like behind the scenes looks in the whole 9 yards there, we're seeing a lot of those younger players step into leadership roles. And honestly, I think it's really good for their development on the field too, because obviously you're adding more responsibility. Now, not everyone can handle it, right? I've had people in Baltimore, Wig, I'm sure you've had people in Jacksonville who have had to take on those roles, and it's just been too much. Maybe they were too young. But you see a guy like Kenyon Mitchell last season, he's someone that set a standard for them. And I think what helped him along was having those veterans in the room with him. But honestly, to me, when you see a guy like Darius Slay leave, when you see a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson leave, the lessons you learn from those veterans do not go away. And so all of a sudden you become the guy. And even if they bring in more, like, for example, Adoree Jackson has been in the league for longer than Kenyon Mitchell has, right? So is that a weird dynamic? I don't think so personally, because obviously I think Kenyon Mitchell at this point is more talented. And I love it when young players become faces of defenses. I mean, that's with Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore. That's been the thing, right? He's still a young player, but he is the heartbeat of that defense alongside Roquan Smith. So you have a veteran leader and a young leader. You have that with a lot of teams. So I love the fact that I think Kenyon Mitchell is going to be a really good leader for that team this season.
Yep, I do too. And when you think about who can contend with them, you don't have to look too much further than who they beat to go to the Super Bowl. Washington had a lot of startups last year, right? They started a whole new organization. They got a rookie quarterback. They had all of these pieces. They finally got Terry McLaurin signed, and we ain't worried about him, but they're going to need player development at the now they're going to need it more than ever because they ain't going to sneak up on nobody. They might have gotten one of their running backs. Check this out from David Harrison from Locked On Commanders.
But this offseason, Anthony Lynn, his coaching staff, gave him a challenge. They said, we want you to come back slimmer, more slender, more agile, more able to kind of be explosive, do all those things. And he worked his tail off down there in Georgia with his trainer, Lilly, and got that weight off. I remember first time I saw him at OTA practice, like, hold up, dude. I had to check the roster to make sure that was still him because I was like, man, like you're melting away out here. And he was really proud and really excited about the progress he had made with his body. And I think it's really shown in some of the work he's done this preseason. So really proud of him. Really excited for him. But again, is he going to be the bell cow? I don't necessarily think that's the role you're going to.
So the player that he is talking about is Chris Rodriguez Jr. They have Austin Eckler, who's older, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. They traded Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Robinson. And I really, really do think they're going to have to get a lot of production out of players that you've never heard of, just like this, who's changed his body to continue to upgrade Washington.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's certainly a risk, and we know who Brian Robinson was to this team, and again, he not like a top upper tier echelon running back or anything like that, but obviously you're banking on inexperience into Chris Rodriguez, and I think to me, you don't want Austin Eckler with how old he is to be a bell cow back. There's a very specific role that Austin Eckler can play for you. And you kind of, I think, want the same dynamic that you had last year with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Now, I think that Chris Rodriguez has potential. He can fill that role, but obviously you have to see it happen on the field to say, okay, yeah, this is going to work. Like we can all sit here and speculate and say, oh, this looks great. The offseason transformation. I mean, how many times have we seen guys be in the best shape of their lives and then it just goes downhill? I mean, it happens. So to me, I think for the Commanders, they're a really intriguing team because in my opinion, with their roster, they're built to win now, but there's also going to be a lot of turnover over the next couple of seasons around Jaden Daniels because of how old the roster is. I think you can capitalize with this year's group. You have a little bit of a youth injection here, and I guess Brian Robinson wasn't even that old in the first place. He goes off and is now in San Francisco, but at the end of the day, I think the Commanders still will challenge, but I still think it's Philly's division.
It is Philly's division, and Washington's going to contend. And I left off two teams. We'll figure out which one of those teams can surprise in segment 3. But we're going to flip the switch right now. We're going to the AFC East, where it is all about the Buffalo Bills. And it ain't really about whether they're going to win that division. It's about whether they're going to win the whole conference. We'll discuss them in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is presented to you by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here, and everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined the league yet, now's the time. And it's all happening at Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether it's your first time or if you're a veteran creating your millionth league. With the season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which means others have so much fun doing it, and there's a lot of ways that you can compete. Now, if you want to make more ways to play, try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? The new Draft with Friends mode is available, and if you prefer the classics, go get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew, no problem. Join a public league. It's easier to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. All right, we establishing the beasts of the East in both the NFC and AFC. Right now, we said it's Philly until it's not in the NFC, but Washington is right on their heels. Let's switch it over to the American Football Conference, where it's all about the Bills. Ain't a whole bunch of stuff to figure out. They're the most consistent team. They're the best team with the best player in the division, arguably one of the 5 best players in the league. So let's go ahead and get down to it right now and listen to Joe Marino talk about the Bills and their defense and some of the things that they can do to get the Bills to take that one more step.
I'll say this. I thought Josh Allen's accuracy in the 5 practices I watched was excellent. I thought it was last year too. And I think what it comes down to is this. It's not that Josh Allen is better or worse than he was last year. It's that the defense has actually improved. So it's no longer every single day Josh Allen's lighting them up. There's a little bit more back and forth, and the defense is having some days where they're winning the day. And I think it tells a better story of this team and what it's capable of.
I know people can remember. You remember 13 seconds? Yeah, we all remember 13 seconds. They were 13 seconds away from changing their history and the history of the Kansas City Chiefs. And just like that, it happened. The defense gave it up. And then before that, to get it to that point, Tyreek Hill takes a routine pass and outruns everybody, which is something that Tyreek Hill can do, and I'm sure we'll mention him in just a second. But give me your assessment of the Bills. Now, you're a Ravens guy. Are they still the same threat that they were last year? Because this is who Baltimore lost to in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think both teams improved, and I agree with Joe. I think the defense looks better this year. There's still a couple of questions I have, particularly in the back end, but the safety group, I think that's probably the biggest weakness on that defense right now. But, Buffalo, the book on them last year, at least part of it was that their run defense was suspect at times. And I loved their draft. They added guys in the middle. They're going to have a few guys suspended for the start of the season, but they're going to get those guys back as the year goes on. Defensive additions, Larry Ogunjobi, I think he's been a great player for a really long time. And, to me, I think that the Bills, it is not about the offense and Josh Allen here. You have Josh, you have James Cook, and I liked what we've talked about this, Wig, like Stephon Diggs being the star that he was in Buffalo, moving off of that and going to more of a, you want to call it a committee approach with guys like Keon Coleman. And this year they bring in Josh Palmer. Khalil Shakir is still really good. Like Kincaid, you have many different options to throw the ball to. It's not just like, all right, let's force feed Stephon Diggs 12 targets a game and see what happens. And I think that benefited Buffalo's offense last season. To me, I think that the defense is going to be the defining story of the Bills this season, though, because, it's not as bad as the Bengals defense. I had to get the shot in. I'm sorry. But, I think to me, the Bills defense last year showed up in spots, but were vulnerable in others. I think it's a much more, it will be at least a much more consistent group this season that I don't think will be the best defense in the league, but I think the Bills don't need to have the best defense in the league to compete, make a run, and honestly win a Super Bowl this season, because Josh Allen, much like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, the big 4 quarterbacks, they are all talent elevators. They bring out the best in their teammates, the best in their teams. And so they can mask a lot of weaknesses. All 4 of them can. And Josh obviously right up there among the best in doing that. So I think the Bills defense, you add big guys in the middle, Joey Bosa, if he can stay healthy, and that's the big question, he can make an impact as well. That group, if they can get a clean bill of health looks a lot better this year.
Yeah, they do. And I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of resistance, but if they do, there's going to be some teams that are in different situations chasing them. So when I had to name their biggest contender, I'm going to go with the team that I know more about, even though I don't necessarily like the way they're constructed. And we'll talk about the other team in segment 3. I'm going to go ahead and go back with the Miami Dolphins. And I know they're one bad hit away from their quarterback having questions about his health. And I know we have always said that they have a whole bunch of Ferraris and not enough dump trucks. I happened to see them in the preseason in some practices against the Jaguars. They're not as bad on defense as I thought. Here's my man Kyle Krabs to speak on just that.
And you've heard Mike McDaniel talked a lot about the execution of collisioning and pressing and disrupting timing within the first 5 yards, and that being something that from a pressure-oriented scheme and this team going out and getting Matthew Judon, if you're going to disrupt the timing like that, and then the synchronization of the throws with the placement, it can work in a lot of cases. But I do question if the group that they have has enough diversity, because how are you going to answer the call when you have a quarterback that processes at a high level and gets the ball out?
That's the key. Miami has to get more possessions than anybody else and give. I don't like their offense. I don't like the way it's designed. It could either kill you or it could die if a team is really, really physical. The thing is though, if you give them chances over and over, they only got to hit 3 big plays in one game to turn that whole game around. Just 3. You can stop them for 62 plays, 62 snaps, right? But they had 65, and all 3 of them can go 65. That's the key, to give them more and more chances, and that's why the defense has to play better.
Yeah, I've just been hurt by Miami too many times, Wig. I can't do it again. You had
Jalen Waddle on your fantasy team, didn't you?
I did, and you know what? I lost the game by 0.2 points when Jamar had 50 against the Ravens because Jalen Waddle had 1 reception for 2 yards, and I can't do it again. I can't do it again. I want to. I love the potential, and you see the firepower on offense, like you talked about it. You have all these star, quick, fast, electric players, and they just can't put it together. I think Mike McDaniel is one of those coaches that is firmly on the hot seat this year. If they can't get it done, or at least even make the postseason, I think he's out of there. And we've seen them, like they tried to put together, especially on defense, like this veteran team with the Calais Campbells and Jalen Ramseys and Javon Hollins and all these guys, and like it's kind of like a revamped unit right now. You know, you're relying on the health of guys like Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, and you know, that to me it's a risk. And obviously the biggest, I guess, swing factor for Miami is Tua. And can he be the quarterback that everybody expects? And look, towards the end of the season, he actually put it together a little bit. But by that point, it was too little too late. You know, the Bills are the team in that division. I mean, Miami, it's fun to think about the potential. Out of the 3 other teams, Miami has the most fluctuating potential here of like how good. Miami could still like sneak in as a wild card team. Like they still have the talent to do that. But in terms of who's winning the division, I don't think Miami has enough juice for Buffalo unless something catastrophic happens up there at Orchard Park. So Buffalo's the team, although I wouldn't be shocked if Miami finished in second, because I think that maybe people have overcorrected too hard on the Dolphins, where they're just so out on them. I should probably be there too, based off my level of heartbreak I've had, but I'm not. I still believe I'm coming back. I'm back in. But yeah, this is Buffalo, and it's not close.
Yeah. So speaking of that, there's some teams we left off. The 2 New York teams, I don't think they're ready. I think they're going to be hard games, though, because I think the way they coach. And the Giants are led by defense. But I do believe both New York teams have a bright future. And I think I think obviously Aaron Glenn is in his first year and Brian Daboll is not. But Brian Daboll, I think, is going to do enough this year to maintain his job and then give hope because of Jackson Dart and that defense. But that's not enough to win. But the Patriots and the Cowboys, look, if anybody has lost his invitation to the cookout from Dallas fans, it is Jerry Jones. They ain't letting him come over there right now because he got rid of their favorite player. We're going to discuss both of those teams in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, got a little listener survey for you. We have an important request. Locked On wants you to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. It's your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. Man, it is NFL season. It's almost here. We got a game in 2 days, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because how it fits how you like it to fit and how you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. So here's what you do. All right, if you're ready to play, and you better be, man, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Download the app. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and you could win $300 in bonus bets. Also, today's show is brought to you by Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Let me know if you're paying full price for gas, because if you are, I got something for you, man. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true. I'm like, man, y'all get out of here with all of that. But it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app and use my limited promo code, which is touchdown, for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code touchdown. Others vary. There's a little bit of a disclaimer for you. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Now the contenders that kind of look like pretenders a little bit in the eyes of some people. The first one we're going to talk about is the Dallas Cowboys. As usual, always in the news for everything except winning. Traded Michael Parsons to Green Bay in what had to be the most boneheaded decision I've ever seen, but there's a little bit of fallout from it. We'll check it out in just a second.
I feel like if they had done this earlier and they had given teams time to kind of make preparations for this, I think they would have gotten more offers, and I think they would have been better offers. I think the other angle of this that's probably not being discussed enough is how much control Micah had over the situation, in the sense that, it didn't have the Cowboys didn't have a no trade clause or anything, but he did have, the ability to say, no, I won't sign with that team. Right. So I think that kind of that sort of reduces the number of teams that are available to make this trade.
Yeah, let's start with that,
because
maybe if you do this trade in March or April, there are teams with more cap space that would be willing to give Micah the deal that he ultimately accepted, right?
I think if they tried to trade him to Las Vegas before the draft, they could have ended up having that pick that Ashton Genty ended up going with. They could have easily done this. Jerry dropped the ball on this, and there's no other way to put it. I think Dallas is still extremely talented, though, and if one of those two teams, probably Washington more than Philly, slips up, Dallas could end up in that second spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's still talent on the roster. I mean, obviously, they did get back a Pro Bowler and Kenny Clark on that defensive line. Now, is Kenny Clark Micah Parsons? No, he's not. But, I mean, they did have a problem with their defensive linemen. Like, they did not have anybody in the middle there. So at least they have that. But the problem is now you lose a generational type of defender that could have been a staple for you long term. I feel very bad for Dallas fans if you're also a Mavericks fan, considering you lose Luka Doncic and Micah Parsons in a span of multiple months. But I mean, yeah, if the offense can keep up, I mean, the question, and it's crazy because a couple of years ago, this defense was like one of the best in the league. And like, he couldn't throw on him, he couldn't run on him. Like, it was crazy. And now Micah's gone. You know, Trevon Diggs hasn't been healthy. I mean, he's back now, but, you know, they just signed Deron Bland to a huge extension. So they obviously believe in him. To me, I think that and this is kind of weird to say for me because the run game is a big question mark for Dallas right now. You know, is it like there's a lot that could go wrong with that committee that they have. Javonte Williams, I think, has to step up. But I think the biggest addition, it's one of my favorite additions in the NFL this offseason, was George Pickens. Because I think that for years it's been CeeDee Lamb and friends over there in Dallas for Dak Prescott. And so I think that obviously with a player like George, who I think, you know, CeeDee obviously is the 1A there, and that's unquestioned. But George Pickens is like a low-end wide receiver one here, and he showed that in Pittsburgh. So if you're facing all this attention over the CeeDee, well, George Pickens is about to tear you apart. If you say, all right, we got to shade more coverage over his way, well, don't want to leave CeeDee one-on-one. We know what happens in that situation. So the offense has potential to be high-powered. You know, the offensive line is going to be a big thing for them as well. I'm not saying that the trade of Micah Parsons eliminates them and they're going to be like a 3-win team this season. They have much more talent than that. But at the end of the day, Dallas is going to have to kind of dig a little deeper because at least for 2025, they have a pretty big talent downgrade from Micah Parsons to Kenny Clark.
They absolutely do. The team with a talent upgrade and an upgrade on the coaching staff are the New England Patriots. And that's my other surprise team. Look, I love Drake May. I love their choice of Mike Vrabel and what they've done. And you mentioned Stephon Diggs earlier, and I think they've done better on the offense and the defensive line. But you got to at least wait until you see it when you're talking about improvement or the kind of improvement that could give them a Washington-type jump. They got off to a good start with a dynamic running back who can not only run, but he's good in pass protection too. Rookie Travion Henderson. Check this out.
There's a lot of excitement within Patriots circles about rookie running back Travion Henderson. Everyone knew about his home run speed and explosiveness, but multiple team sources have also emphasized his elite pass catching and pass protection abilities. Words like quote unquote special and quote unquote difference maker have been used to describe him. Surely feels like New England has a super dynamic young back for May to lean on.
Hey, man, that's where it starts. You got to get dynamic playmakers, and he did that almost on his first touch. Is it a little bit too early to christen them, or should we have to wait and see how this goes in year 2 of Drake May?
I mean, I think it's fine to get excited about it. I mean, I think that Drake May showed a lot last season, and I think that they brought in the pieces around him. They spent a lot of money, as they should, right? That's what teams should do when they have quarterbacks on rookie contracts. I mean, I'm not and this is where I am with, like, we talked about Miami. Like, I think Miami has a better shot to make the postseason than the Patriots do, but I think people have overcorrected on Miami too hard, and the same with the Patriots in the other way, where it's like, we know that Miami has the talent. The Patriots certainly do too, but I think there's more of a floor for Miami and more of a ceiling for the Patriots. Which is more likely to hit? I don't know. But to me, I think that adding a guy like Travion Henderson, you bring in a guy like Stephon Diggs to be a vet receiver there. They needed pass catchers. I mean, it was apparent. But then you kind of revamp the defense a little bit, and you have a good thing going in New England, but I might give it a year or two more. I could see them kind of maybe being that like 8-9, 9-8 team that just misses the playoffs. You know, I'm not expecting like double-digit wins for them this season.
This is that first time you saw a Dan Campbell team and you going, they got something. Not yet, but they're on their way. And I think that's what you're going to see with New England this year. We love the fact that you made Locked On NFL your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL season previews right on the Locked On NFL station. That's right. Every division winner, breakout stars, and Super Bowl contender on an 8-episode series with everything you need to know about the NFL season. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we gave you a little bit of a precursor to what you're going to see when you hear those guys. On the NFC East, every single division, there's a different show. So make sure you go and check that out. Look, man, y'all spent 30 minutes with me and Kevin Ostreicher today here on Locked On NFL. We don't take that for granted because we know you can't get it back, but hopefully you enjoy it and you can run it back and tell your friends about it. And then you can come back tomorrow because we'll be here at the same time, same place, doing the same thing. And that is bringing you really, really good NFL coverage with the local experts, with the help of local experts that have their finger on the pulse of the team. Until then, you guys take care. I'm Tony Wiggins. He's KO. Found him over on Locked On Ravens. I'll be here tomorrow. Thanks.